Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Make It Make Sense with Monique Pressley. I'm your host, Monique Pressley. Thanks so much for joining today. We have a very exciting show, but we're just trying to do what we always try to do, which is what the title says, make it make sense. Take complex topics, things that we need to understand, for real understand, dial down the noise, the rhetoric, give you the facts, give you the data, the who, what, where, when, why of it, so that we can live better lives, because we perish for lack of knowledge, right? So we want you to be able to come here for that. If you are not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. That's Monique Pressley TV. And if you are not yet on board with the Make It Make Sense Nation supporting our broadcast, please do that. You can support us through Cash App at $ Monique Pressley TV, or through PayPal, paypal.me/Monique Pressley TV. We have 3 new partners this week. I can't wait to announce it. One of which will be announced tomorrow. So make sure you're here for the show. It won't be a week in review just like normal. We will do some of that, but we're going to cover a lot of that today with our guest, who is no stranger to the show. Special guest, non-stranger. If you're here, please make a request. Let me see where she is. And we just want to be able to, bring it hot off the press if there are things you need to know that are happening right now. And then we also want to cover things that we really need to know, that we've been really needing to know. We're going absolutely all directions that we possibly can on it. And our special guest for the day, who we're waiting on, is independent journalist Lauren Victoria Burke. She covers the Hill Beat. She covers the White House. She's been with us quite a few times now, at least 3 times. And she lets us know what's happening. And there has been a lot going on this week on the Hill. There's been a lot going on at the White House. There's a lot going on today. The vice president made a really big announcement that I think was embargoed until this morning, but I've been wanting to talk to you about, and she will be in New York at 2:30 today Eastern, I believe. So a lot of people will be covering that, but we want to give you the information about that while we can. So I just want to share a little bit as we wait for our guest. The vice president today announced a new private and public sector effort to align tens of billions in investments in underserved communities. Which communities are those, y'all? Do y'all know which communities those are? Right. The federal government and a coalition of 23 companies and foundations are coming together to align historic investments in underserved communities. The founding members of the coalition include Ariel Investments, Bank of America, BNY Mellon, Capital One, Citi, Discover, Ford Foundation, Goldman Sachs, Google, KeyBank, Kresge Foundation, MasterCard, McDonald's, McKinsey & Company, Micron, Momentous Capital, Moody's, Netflix, PayPal, PNC, Rockefeller Foundation, TIAA, and Upstart. So it is the federal government, along with these 23 huge companies that are coming together in order to serve the underserved. So today, during an event in New York City, Vice President Kamala Harris will announce these historic efforts to catalyze and align public and private investments, including the formation of a new Economic Opportunity Coalition. It's known as EOC, Economic Opportunity Coalition, to address the economic disparities and accelerate economic opportunity in communities of color and other underserved communities. So as I said, there will be 20 corporations and 3 foundations that have come together to create this EOC. They're committing themselves to aligning major investments in communities of color with investments made by the Biden-Harris administration. The EOC will coordinate across public, private, and social sector organizations to develop and deploy products that solve challenges in getting resources where most needed and drive toward outcomes for meaningful action. These EOC members have made significant commitments across each of its 4 focus areas, including a number of investments since the group formed earlier this year. The below, I'll give you a few of the examples that illustrate the commitment. They are investing in CDFIs and MDIs. They've committed more than $3 billion of investments in CDFIs and MDIs, including $250 million in long-term low-interest debt and over $70 million in grants to CDFIs and MDIs. So they will provide technology and personnel in addition through secondment programs, pro bono counseling, like that, pro bono technology, we need that. Taken together, these investments will provide them and their ecosystem partners with the long-term funding, technology, and personnel required to scale and deliver the increased capital made available by the Biden-Harris administration. They are supporting entrepreneurship and minority-owned businesses. The EOC has committed to purchase more than $6 billion in products. The EOC has committed to purchase more than $6 billion in products and services from diverse suppliers and has invested more than $500 million in funding to Black and Hispanic owned and led equity funds. In addition, 6 coalition members are making investments in technology and technical assistance programs that will help entrepreneurs access capital and build capabilities in e-commerce, financial management, and hiring. These capability investments will help entrepreneurs effectively access the nearly $10 billion in loans and equity investments made available to support small businesses through the American Rescue Plan's $10 billion state small business credit initiative, as well as up to 10 times that amount in additional private capital that can be leveraged from these federal investments. So there are other areas. I'm not talking about them all. I'll let Lauren address whichever ones she wants to address. But I mention this because so many people, are on the Biden hasn't done anything for Black people. They haven't done anything. And whenever people say that, it's not just that I disagree. It's that I challenge you to be specific, because a sweeping negative statement like he ain't done nothing ignores all of the things such as this that are being done. And it really does seem like unless it says, here's the money for the Black people and the Black people only, nobody's interested in it. And we need to not think about things that way, because we benefited from the American Rescue Plan. We benefited from things that are happening through appointments in judges, the most Black women federal appointed judges in history. I mean, more than the combined number for all the past presidents. So it's happening. Our first Black woman Supreme Court justice, funding in underserved communities such as this one, keeping in mind the Biden administration had to come in and deal with like a never seen before international pandemic. So there, and the list goes on of things that are targeted for us and things that we disproportionately, for once, benefit from, as opposed to things that disproportionately affect us negatively. But that's me. I'm ready to talk to Lauren Victoria Burke. One moment. Put some hearts on the screens for LVB.
How's it going?
Hello.
How you doing? How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing okay. Busy, but all right.
Yeah, it's a lot going on in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. The Congress is about to go out of session, and anytime they're about to go out of session, there's a bunch of stuff that happens at the end, as you can see with this climate deal, which I haven't read. I haven't had a chance to really read any details of. I can just see Manchin and Sinema in the middle of it, as usual. But I don't know the details yet. But that's just what happens the week right before recess. So
they're in the middle of it, but it looks for once like they're in the middle of it in a good way.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of thankful that to see people just in any area doing their damn jobs.
Right. I know. Getting something done.
Obstructionists. And, people last night on Twitter were all excited. Did McConnell just get out McConnell because apparently he had said they were going to block the chips thing if the Dems tried to get anything done with clean water, clean energy, if they tried to get anything done with whatever and whatever. But apparently
Right.
they didn't block it. It
Right.
passed.
Right.
And now they're coming behind it
Right.
and trying to get a few more things with a deal that
Right.
we have to admit, it appears that Manchin is responsible for orchestrating. So
right. Right. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's finally agreeing to something. I'm not particularly impressed with the trajectory of his political career. He's owned by Big Coal. He's really responsible for the fact that people are paying more for health care. He's almost single-handedly responsible for that by blocking certain legislation that would have helped people with paying for their health care, with their premiums.
Yeah.
And Manchin is just owned by corporate interest. I mean, that's who Joe Manchin is. He's owned by corporate interest. And it cannot be reported on enough, the influence of money in politics and how it means something very tangible for people in this country when you have a member of the United States Senate who, for whatever reason, always is voting in favor of, industries that want us paying more money for things, but
Right.
in this case, he's involved in a deal that obviously there's an agreement with him, but the fact that it keeps coming down to him is, I think, problematic for the Democratic Party, and I think they have to fix that if they're going to.
Listen, it is problematic for the country.
Right.
And that's why I keep saying all roads lead to midterms.
Right.
Because people, one of the things, and you're a reporter, so I understand from your perspective doing it, but one of the things that I see people who only have an interest in advancing Black folks or advancing the country, they'll say the Dems need to, the Dems need to, the Dems need to, if the Dems want us to. And I'm like, but what do you want us to? Because
right.
if you don't want us to return to Trump era insanity, then it's on all of us. But I did want to read a quote from former President Barack Obama from this morning, 10:30 a.m. on the Twitters. He says, "This has been a big week for the Biden administration and Democrats in Congress. First, Congress is on track to pass a bipartisan bill that will lower the cost of everything from cars to consumer goods and make us less dependent on foreign semiconductors.
Yeah.
Then President Biden and Democrats in Congress announced a deal that will fight inflation by reducing the cost of prescription drugs, cutting the deficit, and making the biggest investment in history to boost clean energy and tackle the climate crisis." He says, "I'm grateful to President Biden and those in Congress, Democrat or Republican, who are working to deliver for the American people. Progress doesn't happen all at once, but it does happen. And this is what it looks like." So all those things are going on. And last week it looked like nothing was going on. And then this week we've seen some significant movement.
Yeah, and then we saw a blow up on police policy. I guess, I mean, the congressional baseball game is tonight. I'll probably go to it if it doesn't rain. But, you had the typical progressive versus establishment blow up on police policy. You had the Democrats, once again, trying to figure out how they're going to capture the magical white moderate voter, which they keep trying to capture. You remember last year in Virginia, was the same argument. Terry McAuliffe tried to run this idea of being cop friendly, and it didn't work because most cops vote Republican. I have a lot of cop friends, and they vote Republican, generally speaking. So anyway, we're back to that again.
Right. I mean, well, that didn't work out for him.
No, it didn't work out. It worked out for Glenn Youngkin, who's probably going to walk into the White House in 4 years. So it's like, I mean, it's just amazing. That the party just keeps making the same mistake. I know Stacey Abrams is polling behind Kemp and all that, but really what she said about getting out your voters is the answer. So, when I say Democrats with regard to Manchin, obviously have 4 or 5 Senate seats that if they were to get 3, they could and hold everything else, which is very difficult to do. But if they were to take Manchin off the table, then he would have no power and influence. So the reason he has power and influence is that the Senate's 50-50. So that's a riddle that has to be solved for that party, and we'll see if they can solve it. I doubt that they will solve it, but you never know what can happen in politics, as we saw with Justin Fairfax this week. You never know what can happen in politics. So
any thoughts? Any thoughts you want to share? I know you're close to the sun on this issue, which is why I haven't asked you directly, but if there's anything you'd like to say about this
Yeah.
news I'm reading about
Yeah. Well, the FBI
Governor
has an
Justin
ongoing.
Fairfax and the FBI investigating
Yeah.
sources
Yeah.
of the original complaints against him.
Right. Well, the FBI has an ongoing investigation with regard to the allegations in 2019 when, right at the moment when it looked like he might be the governor of Virginia, right at the moment when Ralph Northam was involved in a scandal involving pictures on his medical school yearbook of a person in a KKK outfit and a person in blackface. And right at that moment, wow, after 20 years and 14 years, or 20 years and 13 years, whoa, these allegations come out. And for some reason that is very confusing to me. And I know that I'm biased because my dad was law enforcement, my boyfriend is law enforcement, my nephew was law enforcement in Virginia. So I am biased toward law enforcement. I understand. I think we all understand that sex crimes are very hard to prosecute and very hard to prove, particularly when you go in 20 years down the line. But I'm a big believer in law enforcement investigation in every matter. Because what happens now is what I would call press lynching. That's what we do now. We do press lynching, okay? I am not a big fan of Kavanaugh, particularly in this moment. Brett Kavanaugh is not one of my favorite people, but with what we saw with Roe v. Wade going down. However, what happened to him to me was not just. He should not have been treated that way. Had that been on the side that I typically have played on, which is the left, if that happened to a left judge, I'd say the same thing. These things have to be investigated and adjudicated. And attorneys like Deborah Katz and Nancy Smith should not be able to throw stuff out on people into the public eye.
Yeah, but he still got in, Lauren.
He got in.
It's not.
Yeah, he got in.
To Franken.
Yeah,
When
he
it
got
happens
in.
on our side, it's political death.
Right. He got in because his party supported him and didn't just let it happen. And they fought. They fought for him, you know. So on the Democratic side, apparently the Democratic Party does not believe in due process. And so my question for the Democratic Party is, if you would do that to Justin Fairfax, the second highest black person in the Commonwealth of Virginia, only the second lieutenant governor, only the second black lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, the first, of course, was Doug Wilder. You would do that to the second highest black person, then what would you do to the kid in Norfolk? What would you do to the kid in Danville? What would you do to the kid in Galax? I don't care if they're white, black, or anything else. But if you don't believe in due process for your second highest official, then you certainly wouldn't believe in it for any just average person who didn't go to Duke University, who didn't go to an Ivy League law school like Columbia University, and whose brother, you know, is the dean over at American University, who's the dean of the law school over at GW. If you would do that to him, you would do it to anybody. So without facts,
if you're a black man in America,
right,
all bets are off. Period. I mean, you
right,
can be an entertainer with $500 million, and
that's right,
all bets will still be off. I know a little something about it.
Exactly right.
And we had a little minor skirmish about that on Roland's show last night, because I very rarely, I very rarely discuss cases in which I've been involved.
Right, right.
It has to be far removed from something that I did,
right,
or I have to be discussing it in an official capacity,
right?
But when we were on the show last night, Roland was saying that Keith Ellison, you know, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison was at the event that Roland's been attending in New York, the
right,
either the summit or the Jackie Robinson, something is New York,
right,
right. In New York this week.
Yeah.
And Keith Ellison's message was to the activists and to the people who went into the streets, you know, don't think, the question was like, does protesting make a difference? And he said, absolutely, protesting makes a difference. Going to the streets make a difference, because the pressure that the people in the streets applied was what enabled prosecutions to go forward against police officers in the George Floyd case. And it is what enables and what keeps prosecutors from weaseling out of or taking the easy way out, and ignoring things and not bringing cases when they're supposed to. And Roland pitched to me eventually, and I think that he thought that I was going to agree with
Right.
what Keith Ellison said, and the value of protesting, because, you know, I'm good for it. I'm not just here on this doggone IG. I will be out in the streets,
Right.
because that's where the work is, and I believe in both. But what I said is, he is right about that, and it's a disgrace.
Right.
He's right about that, and the notion that public pressure, that protesting, that a mob or a crowd worldwide or in a state would cause a prosecutor to either, one, do what they are constitutionally bound to do, they take an oath to do, which is to prosecute cases, to charge and prosecute cases when they assess that they can prove them, they have the evidence to prove them beyond a reasonable doubt, or two, when a mob makes them refrain from prosecuting a case that they otherwise would. Both of those things are wrong. And so what I said is, there was this entertainer, you know, originally from Pennsylvania, who was for years not charged and promised that he would not be charged with a crime. And then an elected official, an elected county attorney, in the nth hour preceding an election, charged right before the statute of limitations ran out because of a crowd, because of outcry, because it was unpopular, and did not believe that he would be able to be elected if he didn't do so. He ran on it like a campaign promise, and that is a disgrace. And in that particular case, turns out I was right about it, and the state Supreme Court had to agree, and a man had to go to jail in order for it all to get figured out, and for what should have been the case in the first place in the law to happen. And so I'm not in favor of that, not in any particular, and that doesn't mean don't go to the streets, but it means what prosecutors are supposed to be doing is saying, we stand inviolate in our resolve to charge cases or not charge cases based on the facts and the facts alone.
Yeah,
Period.
well, that going to the streets, of course, in our case for Black people, has had a tragic history. Okay, that mob justice going to the streets thing. Now, I get what Roland's saying. I mean, Black Lives Matter certainly brought some issues up that had been lingering forever. This police brutality thing has been going on forever. And that really changed the game. I mean, they really changed the game, Black Lives Matter.
Shouldn't have had to, but it did.
Shouldn't have had to. Shouldn't have had to. But the fact remains that justice is different for Black people. Because I can't imagine a white entertainer being treated like Bill Cosby was. And we got out here, we had Hugh Hefner out here, we had Warren Beatty out here bragging about how many people he's slept with. So we've had like all of these people running around, and nobody prosecutes them. Okay, and yet here we had the Bill Cosby situation. So it's not that. I think the Bill Cosby. You see, I was sort of out of Bill Cosby because I'm a Eddie Murphy fan, right? So I was sort of done with him at Pound Cake, having nothing to do with the obvious.
Your history and mine on this subject is well documented.
Yeah, so I'm not, but I just feel like whether it's Bill Cosby,
TV.
Yeah, whether it's Bill Cosby or anybody else, the people deserve to have their day in court. And what happened to him, as happens to a lot of Black males, is all of a sudden the statute of limitation didn't matter. Like all of a sudden the rules go out the window when it's a Black person, And I just, I look at Justin Fairfax's situation. It's amazing, finally there's an investigation, and you got these two white Karen attorneys out here talking about shame on the FBI. The same two white attorneys who were saying the FBI was the greatest thing in the world when Kavanaugh was getting investigated. I mean, it just makes no sense. At least be consistent, So it's not
and that's what shows they are aligned with their interests. They are not aligned with justice.
That's right.
It is interest driven. What's her name? Allred's daughter was proven to be aligned with interest. And see, the thing is, I don't even mind that.
Lisa Bloom.
Work for clients. But don't put yourself out here like you're the truth-telling, fight for the underdog, only care about justice person, if really you're a lawyer who gets hired and you work for clients. Do your job.
That's exactly right.
But you're so right about the situation with Justin. And you know, I mean, you and I had a whole bunch of conversations about this, just offline and online. And for me, it was always stinky. It always had a stench on it. It was always the case that it wasn't just the convenience of it. It was the way the stories were rolling out. And I still, you know, I know it went public. The people that, Lieutenant Governor Fairfax believes had a hand in or responsible. I think it's broader than that. You know, I'm not necessarily on board with the couple of few folks that they're pointing their finger at. I think that when they do plans like this, that they are real plans. And this is why I say, which I tweeted and sent to you my tweet, due process in the law, I understand, is what supposedly keeps you from going to jail or not. You're innocent until proven guilty. But if there is no through line where until that happens, the public enables you to keep your life. I know we can buy what we want to buy. We can support whatever musicians we want to support. We can put whomever in office we want to put in office. We have a right to make those decisions. But if our country, our justice system is supposed to be about, you're not a murderer until it's proven you're a murderer. You're not a rapist until it's proven you're a rapist. You're not a thief until it's proven you've embezzled. If those things are true, then I don't get, you know, you being sanctioned and ultimately being asked to leave your Senate seat that people voted you into. I don't get, you know, you not being able to be nominated for a particular office because too many people have already decided and been their own judge and jury. I mean, this is my soapbox now, but we've gone way too far. Way too far.
Way too far. Well, the thing about Black people, I mean, you're see what's going on here, particularly with Me Too related cases. Okay, let's just take the mask off, okay, and stop BSing around. Is that they've monetized the hot operation of accusing somebody. And what they're doing is they're doing private prosecution. And private prosecution is, okay, the prosecution happens on social media. So the indictment is the press release. The trial is Twitter. So in the real world of lawyering, which you know a hell of a lot more than I do, you have to share information with the other side that you discover. You have to have discovery and deposition. Everybody has to be sort of pre-interviewed and then maybe interviewed in court. But the way that they're doing it, which is extremely intentional, and the way they did it to Justin Fairfax, which was extremely intentional, was we're going to blow you up in the media with an announcement that you did a crime. So we blow you up, right? You're blown up. We got all our media partners putting it out there. 30 minutes later, it's on Twitter, and then that's it.
We're gonna blow you up with an allegation.
Right.
We're gonna blow you up with an allegation, and the groundwork has been laid such that we believe the women started getting added into politicians' speeches. I believe women. We believe women. We stand with women, and I got all kinds of flack as a woman for having the nerve to think that whether it's me or you or another woman, we too have to be held to a standard where when we say something and someone can have consequences for it, that it has to be proven. That in the court of law, it has to be proven. And we're not being disrespected by that standard being held. I understand that for a long period of time, our cases didn't get prosecuted.
Well, see, we
weren't believed by the police. That's totally different. Than me saying as a random public citizen, Lauren says that so-and-so drug her in the alley and raped her 10 years ago. And I'm going to first say that is horrible if it happened. What can we do 10 years later to prove it so that the person responsible can have consequences? But it has to be a dual obligation. It can't just be oh my God, that's horrible, hanging from that tree.
But see, what they did was they married the truth to a non-process. So obviously there's a patriarchy. Obviously women have not been listened to since the Bible. I mean, women have never been platformed and listened to on sex crimes. Everyone knows that. The question is how you fix it to take due process away from men and assume that what everybody says is truth. That gets us back to lynching culture, because that's how it worked in the South for Black men. You know, you're guilty because we say you're guilty. We don't need any process. We don't need any investigation. We don't need, and I'd be damned if I'm going to sit here and be in the 1800s again. I don't care if it's Justin or Kavanaugh or anybody else. Nobody gets to just declare that something is true because they declared it, which is exactly
I don't
what.
care how many stats you throw at me about how, you know, women rarely lie about these things. I have stats that deal specifically with Black men that show, oh, but yeah, they do. Because that's how our men were taken from us in the era that you talk about, and well beyond it. I mean, we looked at that happening in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. And so I think that it is more nuanced. And even when you're looking at data, you need to look at data for specific groups. And
yeah, how about that?
Look at it and say things across the board, like a sweeping generalization.
How about that? Because notice they avoid any data around Title IX and who's getting rung up on Title IX, because that, you doggone better believe, that's probably indexing high for Black males. Of course, nobody takes any data, so I don't know the answer to that. But the point is, we want to fix sexual violence. I think everybody wants to fix sexual violence. But what I'm seeing is the monetization of blowing people up. All right, that's what I'm seeing. And the attorneys get paid by Time's Up, and we're blowing people up who are in the public eye, either elected officials or entertainers, so we can get the maximum media clicks. So the media gets fed, the media gets their clicks, the attorneys get paid. But are we fixing sexual violence, though? I mean, that's the question. Are we fixing sexual violence, or are we just getting more clicks for the New York Times? Like, what are we doing? So right. I feel like the fact that the FBI is investigating the Justin Fairfax matter is the best thing in the world, because when you tell me people are investigating, I'm good. And anybody who thinks that, oh my goodness, we're investigating, so that's some sort of a problem, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, they want to hold that power of being able to blow somebody up and get rid of them. They want the power of the blow up. We blew you up on Twitter. We blew you up in the Washington Post, and then we get to walk away. And then we get a consequence of doing nothing other than putting out a press release. We don't have to prove anything. We don't have to take any questions. We don't have to stand for investigation or deposition or anything else. No, that's the 1800s. That's the 1700s, 1800s. That is lynching culture. That is what that is. And if we're going to sit here as Black women and not see that could be our brother, our husband, our father, then we really, truly need to wake up. Huge. Because these white feminists do not care about justice for Black men. I don't care what you say to me. I don't see it. And if I'm wrong, point out to me which white feminist cares about justice for Black men. Show me who that is. Show me who that is, because I don't see it. They don't talk about it, and they don't want to talk about it.
The thing is, even if you do, in a case like even this with Justin, they will not speak publicly, because then they will be shunned.
That's right. That's right.
You know, whether they're in it as a game or whether they're in it doing their best to stand up for women on this issue, taking one contrary position,
right,
you out the club.
Right.
I mean, forget about the club.
You're out the club for talking about due process. You're out the club for saying that everybody deserves due process. And again, we understand there's a patriarchy. We understand that women are treated like shit for years on this particular issue, sexual violence. Everybody knows that. The question is, how exactly do you fix it? And do you fix it by assuming that all the men are guilty with absolutely no due process? I say the answer is no, you don't fix it that way. It's too episodic. You might blow up a few people, but you're not fixing the problem of what women have to deal with when it comes to sexual violence in a bigger way.
Right.
And that's
you're not dealing
challenge.
with toxic masculinity. You're not dealing
right.
with intimidation. You're
right.
not dealing with workplace harassment.
Right.
You're not dealing
right.
with it in the years in how we are raising our boys to be men.
Right.
Such that the notion of using your physical presence to take advantage, or
Right.
using, you know, emotional intimidation, or using
Right.
threats, or whatever it is, that it is the concept of it,
Right.
of being acceptable in any way, shape, or form, that has to be rooted out. The
Right.
same as the concept, the notion of racism,
Right.
right, has to
Right.
be rooted out.
That's right. That's right.
So,
I never thought I'd be saying it, but go FBI. I mean, we got COINTELPRO and all that. We've almost never seen the FBI do anything for anybody black specifically, but go FBI, please investigate. Full disclosure, by the way, I was Justin Fairfax's comms person during the scandal in 2019. I should have said that, for full disclosure, at the top, but I'm a friend of his. I think he got screwed, and I'm not gonna shut up about it. I'm not.
yes.
So there we are.
Yes. Well, thank you for being willing to talk about it, and to talk about all this other stuff that's going on. I can't believe it. We are already like way out of time.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you. Please keep us posted on whatever we need to know about whatever it is that's going on.
Okay, absolutely.
All right, take care. Thanks, Lauren.
Take it easy.
So guys, I hope that you enjoyed that. As always, I appreciate Lauren coming on. I appreciate her giving us the who, what, where, when, why. I do want to give a small programming announcement. Let me see what time this is happening. Oh, okay. I will be, it seems, interviewing the Treasury Deputy Secretary, Wally Edeyemo, today at 4:30. So look for that. I'm going to be talking about all of the big announcement from the Vice President today and everything that's going on with that. So that will not be live. We're doing it on Zoom, but then I will post it. So go on over to YouTube, subscribe, Monique Pressley TV, and you can get that and other things there. News that you can use, information that matters. Hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Please support us. You can do so through Cash App, $ Monique Pressley TV. You can do it through PayPal, paypal.me/Monique Pressley TV. You can go to the link tree in my bio. But if you want to sponsor, be a friend of the show, sales@MoniquePressley.com. You can get all of that info. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Love you. Bye.